There's a kind of power that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. You can sense it the moment someone walks into a room, calm, grounded, observant. They don't rush to speak. They don't fight to be heard. They watch. They measure. And when they finally do say something, everyone listens. Because silence commands attention long before words do. Most people don't understand that silence isn't emptiness, it's intelligence. It's strategy. It's emotional control. The world is full of noise. People talking to prove a point, to gain validation, to fill the space because they're uncomfortable with stillness. But silence makes people uncomfortable for a different reason. It makes them face themselves. It makes them wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you know that they don't. Think about it. How many times have you regretted something you said in the heat of the moment? How many times have you explained yourself to someone who already decided not to understand you? How often have you wasted your breath defending yourself to people who don't even respect you? The truth is, every word you speak carries energy. And when you give that energy away carelessly, you lose control of the situation. Silence, on the other hand, gives you time. It gives you space. It allows the world to reveal itself while you stay grounded. When you learn to stay quiet, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop trying to prove and start observing. You stop giving power to people who don't deserve access to your emotions. The strongest people in the world are not the ones who always have something to say. They are the ones who can walk away without explaining themselves. They are the ones who can sit in a storm and not let the noise pull them into chaos. Because silence isn't the absence of strength, it's the proof of it. There are moments in life when speaking up is necessary, yes. But there are also moments when silence becomes your greatest weapon, your shield, and your strategy. You have to know the difference. Because if you speak when you should stay quiet, you lose leverage. But if you stay silent when it's time to observe, you gain everything: clarity, peace, and power. So today we're going to talk about something that most people overlook: the wisdom of silence. I'm going to show you the moments when silence protects your dignity, strengthens your presence, and helps you win battles that words never could. These are the moments when staying quiet doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're in complete control. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of strength. In a world where everyone wants to speak, argue, defend, and be heard, silence becomes a rare discipline, a form of mastery that only the emotionally intelligent understand. The truth is, it takes far more power to remain silent than it does to speak. Anyone can react, anyone can shout back, but the one who can stay calm, composed, and observant, that's the person who truly controls the outcome. When you choose silence, you're not choosing weakness, you're choosing control. You're saying, I will not let my emotions dictate my actions. You're refusing to let people pull you into their chaos. And that level of restraint is not something that comes easily. It's built through experience, self-awareness, and wisdom. Silence is not passive, it's deliberate. It's you taking command of yourself, of your energy, and of the moment. Most people mistake loudness for power. They think dominance is about who speaks first, who speaks fastest, or who speaks the most, but that's surface-level power. It's reactive, fragile, and ego-driven. True strength lies in the ability to hold your peace while everyone else is losing theirs. When emotions rise and words fly recklessly, silence becomes your shield. It protects you from saying things you can't take back. It protects your relationships, your dignity, and your reputation. Because once words are spoken, they can't be undone. Silence, however, gives you the upper hand. It allows you to respond, not react. Think of the moments when someone tried to provoke you. They insulted you, misunderstood you, or tried to get a reaction out of you. Most people take the bait. They argue, defend, explain, or retaliate. But when you stay silent, something powerful happens. You disarm them. They lose control because they expected a reaction, and you gave them none. Your silence becomes unsettling. It creates mystery. They don't know what you're thinking or planning, and that uncertainty is power. People often fear silence because they associate it with surrender, but silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. It's choosing to play the long game. It's saying, I'm not wasting energy on this now because I'm thinking 10 steps ahead. When you remain silent, you give yourself the time to assess. You gather information, read the room, and observe people's behavior. Silence reveals what words often hide. While others are busy talking, you're busy understanding. You're noticing body language, tone, inconsistency, and truth. In high-pressure situations, the one who stays quiet gains the advantage. Whether it's in negotiation, leadership, or personal relationships, silence gives you leverage. It makes people fill the space with their own words, sometimes revealing more than they should. It's how you discover what's real, because when you speak less, you listen more. And listening is what gives you insight, foresight, and power. Think of silence as emotional discipline. It's self-control in action. When you speak impulsively, you hand over control of your emotions to others. But when you remain calm, you show that your peace is not negotiable. You decide when to engage, when to step back, and when to walk away. That is power. You're no longer a puppet pulled by external strings. You're the one holding the strings. There's also a quiet confidence that comes with silence. It tells the world that you don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth or your knowledge. You know who you are, and that's enough. The loudest people are often the most insecure. They crave validation through noise. But people who are grounded in self-respect and awareness don't chase validation. They attract it through presence. Silence makes your presence felt before you even speak. Even in conflict, silence is strength. When someone yells, argues, or criticizes you, staying silent doesn't mean you agree. It means you choose not to be dragged into emotional mud. You're not on their level. You're standing above it. You're protecting your peace because you understand that reacting emotionally only gives them power over you. Silence says, I see you. I understand you. But you don't control me. That's not weakness. That's emotional maturity. And there's something else about silence. It forces people to respect you. When you speak less, people listen more. When you don't respond immediately, people wait for your response. Your silence builds anticipation. It shows that your words carry weight because you don't waste them. Every word becomes intentional, meaningful, and powerful. That's the kind of influence silence creates. But remember, silence is not about avoiding communication. It's about mastering it. It's knowing when your words will have impact and when they'll fall on deaf ears. It's understanding that sometimes silence will speak louder than any speech you could ever give. Silence can say, I'm not impressed. It can say, I know more than I'm revealing. It can say, you don't deserve my reaction. And often it says, I'm in control. To live this way requires confidence. The kind that comes from knowing you can speak, but you don't have to. The kind that comes from knowing your peace is more valuable than proving a point. Silence is not the absence of words, it's the presence of wisdom. It's you choosing to move with purpose, to think before acting, and to preserve your energy for things that truly matter. So the next time you feel the urge to defend yourself, to argue, or to prove your worth, pause, breathe, let silence do the work. Because silence doesn't mean you're ignoring what's happening. It means you're choosing a higher response. You're saying, I'll act when it's time, I'll speak when it matters. Until then, I'll remain still. Because my silence is not weakness, it's strength under control. The most powerful people don't waste words. They let silence create gravity around them. They let their actions, consistency, and presence speak. They don't chase attention. They command it effortlessly. That's what silence does. It gives you quiet dominance, and in a world that can't stop talking, that's the loudest statement you can ever make. You said, your peace is your most valuable possession, and silence is the lock that protects it. Every time you speak, share, or explain, You give a piece of your energy away, and not everyone who listens deserves that access. Some people listen to connect, but many listen to collect. They're not interested in understanding you. They're interested in studying you. They take your words, your emotions, and your vulnerabilities, and they store them for later, to judge, to gossip, or to use against you. That's why silence isn't just golden. It's protection. We live in a world that rewards exposure. People feel the need to share everything, their plans, their feelings, their struggles, their opinions, believing that transparency equals authenticity. But what they forget is that overexposure leads to vulnerability, and not the good kind. Every detail you reveal becomes something someone can analyze, misinterpret, or weaponize. Silence, on the other hand, creates a boundary. It tells people, you don't get to know everything about me. You get what I choose to give. That's emotional security. Your energy is sacred because it fuels everything you do. Your focus, your confidence, your creativity, your purpose. But when you let people drain you through unnecessary conversations, emotional venting, or attention-seeking exchanges, you end up exhausted. Some people don't want to see you centered. They want to pull you into their storm. Silence protects you from that. It keeps you from being reactive to every comment, every question, every provocation. It helps you stay grounded when others try to drag you into chaos. The truth is, not everyone can handle your truth. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your thoughts or your feelings. Some people will pretend to care just to know what's going on in your life. They'll ask questions that sound kind, but are rooted in curiosity, not compassion. They'll nod while you speak, but store every word for gossip later. That's why you must learn to recognize the difference between a safe listener and a nosy observer. Silence gives you the time to figure out who's who before you open your mouth. When you choose to stay silent about your struggles, your progress, and your pain, you're not isolating yourself. You're preserving yourself. You're giving yourself space to process things internally before exposing them to external energy. You're allowing your emotions to settle so you can make decisions from a place of wisdom, not weakness. People who talk too much about their pain often end up reliving it. But those who sit quietly with it, who reflect, heal faster because they're not seeking validation. They're building resilience. There's a saying, the less you share, the more mysterious you become. Mystery creates respect. When people can't predict your next move, they can't control it. They can't interfere or sabotage it. Silence keeps your path protected because it keeps your plans private. You don't have to announce every goal you're working on. You don't have to explain every change you're making. Let your results do the talking. Let your growth speak for itself. When you stay silent, people can't ruin what they don't know. Silence also protects your emotional balance. Words carry energy, and the more you engage in unnecessary talk, especially negative talk, the more drained you feel. Every argument, every gossip session, every defensive explanation steals a piece of your peace. But when you practice silence, you become selective about where your energy goes. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand you. You stop trying to convince those who doubt you. You stop entertaining conversations that lead nowhere. And in doing so, you regain control over your emotional state. There's strength in saying nothing. There's freedom in not reacting. You don't have to respond to every message, every rumor, every insult. Sometimes silence says it all. When you stay quiet, you send a message. My peace is not up for negotiation. You teach people that access to your attention is a privilege, not a right. The moment you stop giving attention to nonsense, you start vibrating at a higher level, one where only peace, focus, and purpose exist. People often confuse emotional privacy with secrecy, but they're not the same. Secrecy hides things out of fear. Privacy protects things out of wisdom. You have every right to protect your emotions, your dreams, your relationships, and your healing journey. You don't owe the world your inner life. You don't have to explain your silence, your decisions, or your boundaries. The people meant for you will understand without you having to say a word. The rest don't deserve an explanation. And here's the thing. Silence also protects you from emotional manipulation. When people don't know what you're thinking or feeling, they can't control you, they can't guilt trip you, they can't twist your words, and they can't use your emotions to influence your choices. The less you reveal, the harder it is for anyone to play games with you. Silence becomes your shield against those who thrive on reaction. When you don't give them what they want, your reaction, they lose power. Imagine walking through life with that level of emotional control. You're calm when others are angry. You're quiet when others are loud. You're observing when others are reacting. That's what silence does. It keeps you in a position of power. You stop being an open book, and you start being a locked journal that only the worthy can read. Not everyone deserves a seat at your emotional table. Some people should be left standing outside wondering what's going on inside. And that's okay. Silence is also healing. It allows you to tune into yourself. When you stop talking, you start hearing. Not the noise around you, but the voice within you. You begin to understand your emotions better. You start noticing what triggers you, what drains you, what inspires you. That self-awareness makes you stronger. It gives you clarity, direction, and peace. You can't get that kind of understanding if you're constantly speaking or explaining. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is say nothing and just listen to yourself. When you master silence, you stop being emotionally available to everyone. You stop giving your energy to things that don't deserve it. You stop reacting to drama and start responding to purpose. Silence teaches you that not everything needs your voice. Some things need your stillness. Some things need your stillness. So protect your energy the way you protect something priceless, because it is. Let your silence be your filter. Not everyone gets access. Not every emotion needs to be shared. Not every thought deserves an audience. The people who truly understand you won't need constant words to know your heart. They'll feel your peace, your boundaries, and your strength, all in your silence. You said, silence has a way of revealing truths that words often hide. When you stop speaking, when you stop explaining, and when you stop reacting, something interesting happens. People start to show who they really are. Silence exposes intentions. It peels away the layers of performance that people use to impress, manipulate, or deceive. Because when you stop giving them your attention, your validation, or your emotional response, you take away the stage they've been performing on. And when the stage disappears, the act collapses. When you choose silence, you give people room to reveal themselves. You give them space, and in that space, their true nature surfaces. You start noticing the subtle things, who respects your quiet and who gets uncomfortable with it, who reaches out because they genuinely care and who only calls when they need something. You start to see who is around because of convenience and who is there because of connection. Silence doesn't push people away. It filters them. It shows you who belongs and who was just passing through. Words can easily disguise intention. People can say the right things, offer comforting phrases, or pretend to care. But silence tests consistency. When you stop feeding a connection with constant words, the truth becomes visible. Those who are genuine will remain. They'll check in, they'll show up, they'll respect your distance. But those who are only there for attention, validation, or gain will drift away. Because your silence starves their ego. You'll realize that many people were not attached to you. They were attached to how you made them feel. Once your silence removes that supply, their loyalty fades. In silence, observation sharpens. You begin to see details that your emotions used to blur. You notice the tone behind the words, the hesitation in actions, the inconsistencies between what people say and what they do. When you're no longer busy talking, you start really listening. And when you really listen, not to respond but to understand, people reveal everything. They'll expose their jealousy in small comments, their resentment in jokes, their insecurity in criticism. Silence makes these things stand out, like red flags you used to miss when you were too busy explaining yourself. There's also a certain discomfort people feel when you don't respond. Silence becomes a mirror that reflects their own behavior back to them. When someone tries to provoke you and you remain quiet, they're forced to confront their own actions without distraction. When someone lies and you don't argue, they hear the echo of their dishonesty louder than any accusation you could have made. When someone gossips and you don't engage, they realize you're not the kind of person who feeds on other people's misery. Silence doesn't just expose others, it exposes the entire dynamic of your relationship with them. The truth is, silence makes people reveal how they feel about not being in control. Those who are manipulative will become frustrated when you stop reacting. They thrive on your emotions, on your words, on your need to explain. Your silence starves that control. It confuses them because they can't read you anymore. They can't predict your next move or use your words against you. So they get louder, more dramatic, more desperate for your reaction. But you don't need to respond, you just need to observe. Their behavior under your silence tells you everything you need to know. In silence, you also learn who values you for your presence, not your performance. Some people like you because of what you give, your support, your attention, your laughter, your energy. But take away the constant conversation, the emotional labor, the effort you pour in, and see who's still there. Silence strips relationships down to truth. If your quiet makes someone uncomfortable, it's often because your noise was benefiting them. Silence shows you who sees you as a person and who saw you as a source. Silence is also a test of respect. When you choose not to speak, not to react, and not to engage, you see who honors that boundary. Some will respect your space, others will try to invade it. The ones who truly care will understand your quiet and give you room to breathe. The ones who only care about control will try to pull you back into conversation, conflict, or drama. They'll call you distant, cold, or difficult, because they can't manipulate what they can't access. But that's the beauty of silence. It protects you while exposing them. You'll also find that silence brings truth to light, without you having to chase it. People will often reveal themselves when you simply stop giving them feedback. The friend who disappears when you stop checking in. The partner who loses interest when you stop overgiving. The colleague who shows resentment when you stop sharing ideas. Silence reveals the real dynamic. Who's taking, who's giving, and who's only around when it's easy. You won't need confrontation. You won't need to accuse anyone. Just step back and watch how people move when you stop speaking. Silence isn't passive observation, it's active awareness. It's a quiet, focused attention that allows you to see beyond words. You start feeling the energy of people instead of just listening to their promises. You sense sincerity or hidden motives without needing proof. Your intuition sharpens because it's no longer drowned by noise. And the more you practice silence, the more you realize how revealing it truly is. You start noticing who avoids eye contact when they lie, who over-explains when they feel guilty, who goes silent because they can't manipulate you anymore. It's all there. Silence just helps you notice it. But perhaps the most powerful thing silence does is shift the balance of power. When you stop giving emotional reactions, you take control back. People can only manipulate you if they know what triggers you. Silence removes that map. You become unpredictable, calm, unreadable, untouchable, and that confuses anyone who once relied on your emotions to navigate you. It's in that confusion that their true intentions leak out. They'll either respect your boundaries or reveal their need to dominate. Either way, you get clarity. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about seeing the truth. It's not about ignoring people. It's about watching them. Because silence has a way of pulling honesty to the surface. It exposes loyalty. It reveals character. It separates those who talk to you for connection from those who talk to you for convenience. So the next time you're unsure about someone's intentions, don't confront them. Don't argue. Don't explain. Don't overthink. Just go quiet. Step back and watch what happens. People who are genuine will come closer. People who are pretending will fade away. You won't need to say a word. Silence will do the work for you. Because silence doesn't lie. It listens, it observes, and it reveals everything words try to hide. Conflict is one of the most powerful tests of emotional intelligence. It's in those heated moments when someone disrespects you, challenges you, or tries to provoke a reaction, that your true level of control is revealed. Most people think power in conflict comes from dominance, from having the last word, from proving a point. But real control doesn't come from volume. It comes from composure. The one who can stay silent when others are shouting holds the power. Silence isn't submission, it's strategy. It's how you maintain authority over yourself when the situation tries to pull you into chaos. When tension rises, emotions surge. Your heart beats faster, your thoughts race, and the natural urge is to defend yourself, to fight back, to explain, to retaliate. But that's exactly when silence becomes your greatest weapon, because silence gives you time to think, to breathe, and to observe. In that pause, you shift from being reactive to being intentional. You start seeing the conflict for what it truly is, not just how it feels. Silence allows you to respond with clarity instead of impulse. And that difference can save your dignity, your relationships, and your peace. Most people regret what they say in anger. Words spoken in the heat of the moment carry energy you can't take back. Once you release them, they can damage trust, respect, and connection. Silence prevents that damage. It acts as a filter between your emotions and your expression. It allows you to feel without letting those feelings control you. You can be furious on the inside, but wise on the outside. That's real strength, not exploding, but holding your ground in stillness. Because silence is not the absence of feeling, it's the presence of control. When you stay quiet during conflict, you do something powerful. You force the other person to face themselves. People who argue aggressively want your reaction. It validates their chaos. They want to pull you into their emotional frequency because as long as you're reacting, they're in control. But when you remain silent, when you simply listen without engagement, it unsettles them. Your calm becomes louder than their noise. They start second-guessing themselves. They realize they can't manipulate your emotions or control your narrative. Your silence shifts the balance of power back to you. Silence also disarms escalation. Arguments feed on words. The more you say, the more fuel you add to the fire. But when you stop feeding it, the conflict loses its momentum. You're not giving the other person something to attack. You're creating space for the tension to cool down. This doesn't mean you're avoiding the issue. It means you're refusing to let emotions drive the outcome. By staying silent, you create an environment where rationality can return. And often, once the heat fades, the truth becomes easier to address. It takes maturity to realize that not every argument deserves your voice. Sometimes silence is the only way to preserve your peace. There are people who argue not to find truth, but to prove superiority. They twist words, deflect blame, and drain your energy. Engaging with them only traps you in a cycle that leads nowhere. But when you choose silence, you step out of the game entirely. You send a clear message: I won't play by your rules. That kind of self-restraint is not weakness, it's emotional leadership. It shows that you're not controlled by ego or pride, but by purpose. Silence also allows you to listen, not just to the other person's words, but to what's behind them. When you stop talking, you start hearing what's really being said. You notice the fear behind anger, the insecurity behind arrogance, the pain behind aggression. Every conflict has layers, and silence helps you see them. You begin to understand that most people who attack are not truly angry at you. They're angry at themselves, at life, at their own frustration. Silence gives you the distance to recognize that, and when you understand that, you stop taking things personally. Another strength of silence is that it helps you choose your words wisely when you finally decide to speak. Instead of reacting emotionally, you speak from intention. You choose words that de-escalate, that clarify, or that set boundaries, not words that wound. Because silence gives you perspective. It helps you identify what the conflict is really about. Is it about ego, misunderstanding, hurt. Once you know that, you can decide if it's worth addressing or if it's better to simply walk away. Either way, your silence has already protected your integrity. And let's be honest, not everyone deserves an explanation. Some conflicts aren't about finding peace. They're about control. Some people argue not to understand, but to provoke. The best thing you can do in those moments is not feed the drama. Silence frustrates those who seek chaos because it denies them the reaction they crave. You don't owe anyone the satisfaction of seeing you lose composure. Staying quiet tells them, I see what you're doing, and I'm not giving you my energy. That's not avoidance. That's self-respect. In professional settings, silence can also be your most effective negotiation tool. During disagreements or tense discussions, the person who speaks less often has the advantage. Why? Because silence creates pressure. It makes the other person fill the gap with words, often revealing information, softening their stance or exposing insecurity. In leadership, silence commands authority. It says, I'm not reacting impulsively, I'm calculating. People respect that kind of calm power far more than they respect someone who speaks without control. But silence doesn't just protect you from others, it protects you from yourself. When you stay quiet, you give your emotions time to settle. You realize that you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Not every accusation needs defense. Not every disrespect deserves acknowledgement. Sometimes silence is your boundary. The line that says, you can talk, but I'm done engaging. It's how you choose peace over pride, clarity over chaos. The beauty of silence in conflict is that it gives you back your freedom. You're no longer enslaved by the need to prove yourself right. You don't need to convince anyone to see your worth or understand your side. You stand firm, knowing that truth doesn't need shouting. It reveals itself with time. Silence shows confidence. It says, I know what I stand for, and I don't need to argue about it. In the end, silence during conflict is not just about holding your tongue, it's about mastering your emotions. It's the ability to protect your peace while others are trying to destroy theirs. It's knowing that reacting won't change anything, but your composure can change everything. The next time you face conflict, remember, the one who remains calm holds the power. Let your silence speak for you. Because in a world full of people who can't stop talking, the person who can stay quiet, who can stay centered, always wins. There's a point in life where you realize not everything deserves an explanation. You reach a level of emotional maturity where you no longer feel the need to justify your choices, your boundaries, or your silence. Because the truth is, the people who genuinely understand you don't need explanations, and the ones who demand them will never be satisfied no matter how much you say. Silence becomes your answer. And that answer is louder than any words could ever be. When you choose silence instead of defending yourself, you send a message that's crystal clear. You're no longer seeking validation. You're no longer fighting for understanding. You're done performing for people who don't respect your intentions. Explanations are often mistaken for weakness. They make it seem like you owe people something. Like you're trying to prove that your choices are right or that your boundaries are fair. But you don't owe anyone an essay about why you decided to protect your peace, distance yourself, or grow differently. You owe yourself alignment, not approval. Silence in these moments speaks volumes. It says, I've made my decision, and it stands. It says, I'm not here to convince, I'm here to live. Because when you explain yourself to the wrong people, you give them permission to judge, question, or manipulate your truth. They twist your words, reinterpret your intentions, and make your honesty a weapon against you. Silence, on the other hand, leaves no room for misinterpretation. It's clean, it's controlled, it's fine. The strongest people are often the quietest when they're being misunderstood. They know that truth doesn't need to fight to be seen. Time will expose everything. Words can't. There's a calm confidence that comes from knowing who you are and not feeling pressured to prove it. You don't need to argue your value to anyone. You don't need to explain your boundaries to those who repeatedly cross them. You don't need to justify your distance when your peace was the price of being close. Every time you choose silence instead of argument, you conserve emotional energy that can be redirected toward growth. Every time you choose stillness instead of defensiveness, you reclaim your inner power. People who thrive on chaos want you to react. They want you to explain, to justify, to beg for understanding. They want you to waste your calm on their noise. But silence cuts through that. It starves manipulation. It creates discomfort for those who rely on emotional reactions to control you. Think about this. Have you ever noticed how silence can make people uneasy? They start talking more, over-explaining, revealing truths they never meant to share. That's the beauty of silence. It puts the burden of expression on others. It gives them the space to show their true intentions. While you observe quietly from a position of strength, silence doesn't just speak. It interrogates. It reveals what words often hide. Explaining yourself can also trap you in cycles of overthinking. You start crafting justifications, rehearsing conversations, and defending decisions that were never up for debate. That mental loop drains you, but when you decide to say nothing, to let your peace be your response, you reclaim authority over your own mind. You realize that peace of mind is far more valuable than winning an argument or proving a point. Silence is not passive. It's active restraint. It's the discipline to rise above pettiness. It's emotional intelligence in motion. You learn that not every comment needs a reply, not every misunderstanding needs correction, and not every judgment deserves your energy. You learn that explanation often feeds drama, while silence starves it. You begin to value your serenity over your need to be understood. There's also dignity in silence. It shows emotional stability. When people expect a reaction and don't get one, it shifts the power dynamic instantly. You remain composed while they lose balance. You show that you are grounded in your truth, unshaken by opinions. That calmness is intimidating because it reflects control. People can't manipulate what they can't provoke. And here's something most people miss. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care wisely. You've decided to invest your emotional energy in things that matter. You've learned that your time, peace, and mental clarity are too valuable to waste explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Because at the end of the day, the right people will never question your silence. They'll understand it. Eventually, silence becomes your signature. It becomes the mark of your maturity, your growth, your mastery of self. It shows that you no longer operate from ego, but from peace. You've learned that the loudest response is no response, and that true confidence doesn't announce itself, it simply exists. So the next time you feel the urge to explain, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Will this change anything? Or am I just trying to prove something to someone who has already made up their mind? Most of the time, silence will be your best answer. Let your absence speak. Let your composure speak. Let your results speak. Because silence, when used with wisdom, will always echo louder than justification ever could. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, the person who masters silence becomes unforgettable. You don't win every battle by talking. Sometimes you win by saying nothing and letting your peace say everything. At the end of the day, silence is not about being passive. It's about being powerful with purpose. It's not about withholding words out of fear, but about choosing which words deserve the energy of your voice. The world will try to provoke you, challenge you, misinterpret you, and sometimes even betray you. But you must understand that your response is your weapon, and silence is one of the sharpest blades you'll ever wield. The people who truly understand power know that silence isn't emptiness. It's precision. It's knowing when to speak and when to hold your peace. It's the ability to stand in a storm and not let the thunder outside disturb the calm inside. That's emotional discipline. That's strength. That's mastery. When you learn to be silent in the right moments, you protect your energy, you maintain your dignity, and you take control of your narrative. You stop letting the noise of the world dictate your peace. You stop giving people access to your emotions, and you start operating from a place of clarity, not chaos. So let them talk, let them assume, let them create stories about who you are or what you're doing. You don't owe anyone a defense, an explanation, or a reaction. Your silence will tell them everything they need to know, that you've outgrown the need to prove yourself, that your peace is your priority, and that your power no longer depends on being understood. There will be times when your silence will be misunderstood, but that's not your problem to fix. The moment you understand that, you step into a new level of freedom, a quiet confidence that doesn't shout to be seen. You become unshakable, untouchable, and unstoppable. Remember this: you don't always need to speak to make a statement. Sometimes, the most powerful sound in the room is your silence. Because real power doesn't perform, it's felt, and when you master the art of being silent in the right moments, you'll discover that your silence will always speak louder than words ever could.